Doug Adams here to talk all things running about with you, and I want to talk about something that is extremely important for runners to do. I go out on a limb and say, obviously there's exceptions, but I think almost every runner should be jumping. And I think that it's so important, and it is something that is missing from so many training programs. And even as medical and fitness professionals, I think there's a big gap in what we're doing to help our runners run more efficiently through jumping. So I want to talk a little bit about this. So let's look at really what goes into running performance. And as we look at this, to run efficiently is a big part of our performance. And we want to be able to produce more force with less effort while maximizing our time on the ground. So if you look at this little chart we put in there, we really want to maximize the elasticity. So we want to have a springy-like nature to our running. But we don't want to have to do a lot of work with our musculoskeletal system to be able to do that. And we also have to make sure that those loads stay manageable. So that's a big part about what we should be looking for that we're not necessarily going to get by just running more and more. And there's a way to get a lot more efficiency out of what we're doing. Now, besides efficiency, we also want to run faster a lot of times, and that can only really happen with higher ground reaction forces. So we have to ask ourselves, how can we train for this? Does just running all the time help with this? And I'd say, obviously, there will be some benefit, and these things will improve with more consistent running. But I think anyone that's not incorporating other training into it is missing out. So that's where jumping really helps. And what we see is we're building a better spring. We want to take maximum benefit out of that. I think a lot of people don't realize that almost half of the work that we do when we're running comes from the elastic property of our muscles. So it's really this passive nature of loading our spring up and then getting the recoil back to propel our bodies forward. So when we jump, we see so many benefits, and just highlighted some of the major ones here of neuromuscular efficiency, rate of force production, bone health, musculotendon stiffness, running economy. There's so much here that really comes from doing these plyometric type activities that are going to help us to improve our running. And this is supported in the literature as well. We've seen from numerous studies, and just one highlighted here, that showed a 2.7% improvement in their 3K time without an increase in VO2 max, meaning that doing this plyometric program that was part of the study did improve their cardiovascular fitness, but what it did was it made them a more efficient runner. It gave them a better spring that really made a difference in how successful they were in a 3K time trial. So this isn't just for sprinters either here. We really need to focus on our efficiency. So when you're talking to your athletes and when you're thinking about adding plyometrics, I like to think, okay, hopefully we've just in that short time convinced you really need to do these plyometrics, but we have to explain the benefit to our runners. And kind of talking about like we did, saying almost half of the energy required to run comes from the springy nature of our muscles and tendons. So if you want to run faster with less energy, jumping and plyometrics will make you a more efficient spring. Now, as a medical and fitness professional, what we really want to focus on is making sure that they're doing these plyometric exercises correctly. Because the cost benefit is that they are a high force. And if somebody has injuries related to these high forces, if they're not doing these exercises right, it might be contributing to worse performance or more injury if we're not doing them correctly. So we want to focus on making sure that the movement is initiated at the correct location. Oftentimes this means that they're moving from the hip as opposing to be more of a knee dominant, ankle dominant movement, and making sure that they're correctly initiating the movement. Then we want to make sure that we're focusing on rate of force production. Can they generate that force quickly? Not spending a lot of time on the ground, taking advantage of that stretch shortening cycle to make sure that we're getting maximum benefit out of it. We also have to focus on quality of the movement. So just like with quality of running form, we need to look for collapsing mechanics, making sure that they're not deviating from the desired biomechanics. And finally, I think one of the most important things is a maintenance of posture. We need to not just look at the lower body, but the upper body as well, especially at the lumbo-pelvic region and the hip and core. We need to make sure that they're maintaining an appropriate posture with us. This is really important for our runners to be able to incorporate this in, but we want to make sure that we're incorporating it the right way. So we really go into depth of this, and I just really, this is a short piece just to make you realize that jumping is really important, maybe why it's really important, but we want you to really dive deeper into it and understand how to apply a plyometric program, where to start with somebody. You can't just start with the craziest exercises you saw on Instagram and think that your athletes will be successful if you get them doing this. There needs to be a progression, there needs to be an assessment. And that's why in our Level 2 Certified Running Gait Analyst course, we have our loading levels where we really look and identify who is loading correctly the forces through their body and how we can progress them. So each of those has a different progression with it. So we hope that you'll find more information in our Level 2 course, but we also really hope that you dive into this and start adding plyometrics. So let us know some of the things that have worked great for you. Please leave some comments below. We'd love to hear from you as well.